Now let's look at the assignments that you have for this week. So once you know a little bit about lead writing from our review, we're going to do one story. The first one is going to be this one right here. So I have that information in writing on your page too, but I wanted to show you. And maybe we could brainstorm just a little bit. So what you're not going to do is actually follow the directions in the book. The directions are going to tell you to write a lead, but what I want you to do is write the entire story. We're going to write all the information that we have here. All of it's pertinent to the story. So what you want to ask yourself before you start, first of all, the good news is there are no names to check in here. So we're good. But you want to read this and ask yourself what happened. What is the story about? What's an important piece of information that I can put in the lead? Now what you don't want to do is say that the Bureau of Justice Statistics of the U.S. Department of Justice released a report Monday. That is boring, and you used up almost half your lead, and you haven't said anything yet. So one of the things I think is difficult here is that you have a bureau within a department. And so what you could do is pick the Department of Justice and say a little bit info, and then in the second paragraph you can give the bureau's name and continue on. So what I would do here is you want to pick something that you can put in your lead. There's a lot of figures here. 1 in every 37 adult Americans. Let's see. 5.6 million people were either serving or had served time in prison. So there's a lot of information here. You can pick something that you want to put in your lead. And so your who can be the U.S. Department of Justice. Instead of saying released a report, why don't we say that it reported, right? Just pick your verb. Your verb is really important here. And here's your when, so you want to have that in your lead too. Now, after you do your lead, then your second paragraph is going to have what you think is maybe the second most important piece of information. And remember, you get 30 to 35 words in your lead. You want to start strong, so think about your first 8 to 10 words. And in your second and subsequent paragraphs, you can have up to 4 type lines. So this is not going to be a really long story. It might be a paragraph, a lead, and a second paragraph. Maybe a short third paragraph. It really depends on how you write it, but it's not really long. One more thing I want to show you here is last year. Don't do that to your audience. Tell your audience what year you're talking about. Don't make them do the math. Don't make them take out the calendar. Just tell them what's going on. So anyway, you're good to go here. There are no names to check, and so you'll be fine. So let's go ahead and we're going to backtrack a little bit. I wanted to do this story first because it doesn't have any names, and it's pretty straightforward. So we're going to go to the page right before that, and we're going to look at the story that we're going to do next. Okay, and so this is right here, number 2, writing leads, section 1, condensing lengthy leads, and it's number 2. It's about, well, let's look at it. So it says the local school board held a special meeting Tuesday night so that Superintendent of Schools Greg Hubbard could address a group of angry parents who were demanding to know why they were never informed that a middle school student brought a gun to school and may have targeted their children during an incident on school grounds last Friday. So let's look at some of the problems. First of all, what happened? What is the story about? Okay, so you want to ask yourself that. Now, we're not always going to brainstorm together. You'll have to do this on your own, but I want to show you how it works because you need to do this between your ears every time you write a story. So the story is about this meeting between the superintendent and a group of angry parents, right? It's not that the school board held a special meeting. Don't ever say that. If you do, just put it at the end of your story. It's really not that important. The school board called the meeting so that these people could meet with him, right? So you want to ask yourself, now that word angry is kind of scary, only because Ordinarily, I would avoid these kinds of words. I'm going to let you go ahead and use it here, but I would rather tell you what somebody did. In other words, I can't know you're angry if you don't show me or tell me. We've all been wrong. We've thought our friend was mad at us, and our friend was just upset because he forgot to put gas in the car, right? It had nothing to do with us. So we've been wrong there, and we can be wrong here. Now, instead of saying you're angry, I can tell you what they're doing. Maybe they're hollering, shouting. Maybe they have signs. Maybe they're 2 inches from his face. Maybe they're throwing chairs around. Maybe they're stomping and running. You know, if they're doing all that, I can tell you. Maybe it's a standing room only crowd. It's him and 250 parents, you know. So tell us what you see. Now, we don't have all that here, so we're going to work with what we have. But why were they mad, right? Nobody told them that a middle school student brought a gun to school, right? No, we don't know when they found this out, but that was why they were upset. Okay, all this stuff happened and nobody told them, right? They wanted to know, they demanded to know why nobody told them. Now, if you look here, you really need to look at the scary part here. So, he brought a gun to school. Now, you know, maybe a kid brings a gun to school just to show it off, but this child may have, now we don't know for sure, so we don't want to say for sure, may have targeted their children. That is the scary part, right? That word incident, we can ban that one too. An incident's when you stub your toe, basically. This is not a toe stubbing thing here. This is serious. So we just need to say that he targeted children on school grounds Friday, right? Remember last Friday, that word last and next, when we talk about time, we're going to toss that too. Now, we don't have a name for our city yet, so you can call your school board, give your school board the name of your hometown, and what you would do is say you live in Thibodaux. So the Thibodaux School Board, and I'm going to capitalize school and board when I use it on the first reference, the official name. Then after that, I can lowercase school board. So that's an important part. Whenever you name a public body, you always want to give it its official name on the first reference. And then on second reference, you're going to lowercase it. Now, what should you assume about his name, right? You should always assume it's wrong. I'm not going to remind you of that. That's something you're going to have to remember on your own. But look at the title. Superintendent of Schools Greg Hubbard. Do it this way. This is really a good way to set up your title. It's capitalized before his name, and there are no commas separating the title from the name. So those are a few things that you can keep in mind from our brainstorming session as you work on this week's assignment.